Thank you so much, Stephen, for your time today.
Not at all. It's always a pleasure.
So without further ado, tell us what Rice Exchange is, and especially with the COVID and everything that was being impacted as a result, how did COVID impact your company and your venture?
Sure. So Rice Exchange is a blockchain-based platform for trading rice internationally. We have over 75 users now from 25 different countries around the world. I think we have users in every continent. And we went live 6 months ago, and we've seen a nice pickup in volumes, especially actually in April. We've seen a big increase in volumes. As I think people get used to the platform, they get comfortable with how it works. They can do bigger transactions, and so yeah, we're excited by what we've achieved so far. Now this is the first time that such a digital platform has existed, right? This is something that's totally new. So it gets a little bit of getting used to. We give our users a lot of training. And there's great functionality already, but there's going to be even better functionality moving forward. I think you're going to see some of the announcements we're going to make they'll help our customers to finance their trades. They'll help them to get better logistics, and also we're going to help them. We're going to give them data tools. We're going to give them more data, ways to analyze their own data, and ways to make better decisions. Right? That's really what this is all about. It's not just collecting data, but it's how they get to use it for their advantage.
Well, exactly. So tell us, what was the problem in the market that you were trying to solve when you created Rice Exchange?
Fundamental problem is one of trust. That is to say, we had users who, even though they wanted to be able to shop around and get the best offer, they felt that it was risky to do that with people that they maybe hadn't traded with before. And it's a market where it's quite difficult to establish a reputation, because you don't have a venue to do that. And I think that's true of most commodity markets.
So what was the trust issue that you were trying to solve? The trust between the farmers, the trust between the stakeholders. If you can just open up
it works on a few levels. I think the first level is just basically how is this person who he says he is? Do I know? What we do is we have quite a strict onboarding procedure. We make sure that the people that come onto the platform meet certain requirements. And this gives, because everybody that's on there went through the same process, this gives them a lot of confidence that the people that are on there,
basically a KYC.
We don't perform KYC, but we certainly we make it easier for other people to do KYC. Yes.
Okay.
That's one element. I think the second element is, is there a way for me to measure someone's historical performance, right? So by having a blockchain-based platform, we allow people to create a true track record. All right. Right now, there's no way to do that. And then the third way is really around how the trade itself is agreed on and then executed. So by using a smart contract, we allow the different stakeholders. So it's not just the buyer and the seller, but it's also the other service providers, like the inspector, the finance provider, the shipping provider, and the insurance company. We allow them all to see that they all basically have access to the same information, and they can trust that data is immutably held.
If you can walk us through the first and last user, like how the process works within the Rice Exchange platform, it would be really great.
Okay, sure. So the first step really, it's usually led by a buyer. The buyer will have a need for a certain amount of rice. Could be a single container if they're a specialist buyer. Could be someone that's buying several thousand tons. That person could be a distributor. They could be a mill owner, in which case they're buying paddy rice. And they want to go out in the market and see where there is supply and where they can get, where they can get the best price. And so they'll be able to do that on our platform in two ways. They can either post a public offer, which means everybody sees it, or they can do a private offer to their preferred suppliers. Okay, we give them two ways to do that. Either way, once they actually enter a negotiation, it's always private. It's not like everybody can see what's going on. And then what will happen is the different suppliers will be able to respond to that. And we have several different types of suppliers. Again, we have small farmers. I think the smallest producer we have on our platform is doing a couple of 100 tons a year. And then we also have some large mills, and we have some exporters who do over 1 million tons a year. So there's a big range on the platform. But when that buyer finds the seller, that when they reach an agreement with the seller, then they create a contract on the platform, which then becomes the smart contract. And once it becomes a smart contract, then all the different items in the contract are effectively executed by the platform automatically. So it will send off notifications. One of the first people it's going to notify is going to be the inspection company, so that they know to be ready to inspect the rice. Next, you're going to have the shipping company, so they need to tell the shipping company where to pick the rice up. Then the inspection company will, as the rice is being loaded, the inspection company will put daily inspection reports on the platform. Quite often it can take a week to load all the rice on. And so you get these daily reports. And then once the rice is all loaded on board and the ship sets sail, then you will get the bill of lading, which is probably the most important document actually presented on the platform. Next, the ship will sail. It might stop along the way. Typically, it's going to take anywhere between 2 and 6 weeks in order to arrive at the destination. When it gets to port, the platform again will notify the buyer. Sometimes payment is made just as it's about to arrive in port. Sometimes payment is going to be made after it's arrived. In all cases, the bank, nearly always there's going to be a bank financing the transaction, and the bank itself will have requirements. For instance, they will want to know that the goods are insured. Okay, so again, that's another document that must be provided on the platform. And then after payment has been made, what we also then track is, was that rice, did that rice meet the expectations of the buyer, right? Was it what was agreed in the original contract, and was it as the inspection company said it was? All right. And if there's a discrepancy there, then what that means is that either the inspection company didn't do their job, which we think would be unlikely, or it means that there was something happened to the goods when they were en route. Okay. But the point is, at the moment, the way rice is traded right now, it's almost impossible to identify what happened. And by making it much, much easier to identify what happens, we believe that all the parties, all the stakeholders are incentivized to act in an honest way. That's the aim here.
Well, that's very interesting. When did you guys launch? When was
at the end of September? So just over 6 months ago.
6 months ago. So how's also with the COVID and the pandemic, we saw that it impacted a lot of supply chains, specifically, obviously, supply chain for food and agriculture. So in your point of view, how the supply chain of rice was being impacted, and how did you observe that through your platform?
Right. So COVID started just before we launched. And what we saw was we saw two really big impacts. So first one was that people aren't traveling. I know you travel a little bit, but most people, for most people, it's very difficult to travel, especially to the origin countries where the rice is coming from and destination countries. These are not always difficult places to go to at the best of times, but it's been virtually impossible to travel. So people have had to get used to trading without doing face-to-face meetings. They've also had to get used to troubleshooting without doing it face-to-face. And what that has therefore meant is, we think as a result, people are much more willing to accept platforms like ours. They're much more used to doing not doing business face-to-face. So that's definitely helped us. The other thing that happened was there was a lot of disruption to logistics and ports. Some ports were temporarily closed. Sometimes there were bans put out on exports from certain countries. And what that meant was that rice buyers needed to find alternative sources and alternative supplies. Again, that's good for us, but I think the disruption to logistics has made commodity trading difficult across the board. We saw again in last month with Suez, there was an additional disruption.
Right.
So it's been a difficult month. It's been a difficult year. I think the first 6 months, there was still quite a lot of logistics disruption. We're just now starting to see the market coming back to normality, starting off this month.
Right. You mentioned about the technology and digital technology and how inevitable it is these days to actually avoid that, specifically with everybody working virtual or even like different products now being, the e-commerce, for example, platforms. How do you think that obviously agriculture is one of those industries that haven't been disrupted by technology too much because of the farmers, and obviously they like the classical way. And how do you think now, with the advancement of technology, specifically drones and satellite observations and so forth, and now with the blockchain, how these technologies can actually advance the agriculture, or even like precision agriculture?
Absolutely. It's fascinating. It touches so many different areas, not just of growing the crop, but how it's transported, how it is processed, how it is traded, and even how it is consumed. Right. So as you just asked me a little bit earlier, right now our platform covers the leg effectively from a warehouse in one country to a warehouse in another country. All right. But over time, what we want to do is we extend that upstream all the way to the farmer, and then downstream all the way to the consumer. But it's our view that the most important piece in that journey is actually the middle bit. All right. If once you've solved the middle bit of the process, which is what we're doing, it's actually it's easier then to go upstream and downstream, and then you get the whole chain. And we're already working with partners. We have a partnership with SRP, which is the Sustainable Rice Platform, where we are effectively integrating their database of rice farmers. So their certification of rice farmers is being integrated into our platform. On the other hand, we have some customers who are supplying supermarkets in Europe and the US, and there's quite a rapid move right now for retailers to offer not just organic rice, but rice which has been grown in a sustainable manner. And we provide both the way to track that, but also actually the most important bit is having a marketplace where you can find the suppliers who are offering it in the first place. In order to, right now, very, very little rice is grown in an organic way. And in order for the supply to increase, rice farmers need to be sure that they're going to be able to find buyers who are going to offer them a better price. And so having an effective marketplace is really important.
So you just mentioned that, and to that, making a comment, how hard is it now to work with the farmers, specifically with kind of like bringing awareness and like education in terms of, like all these like technologies and application in the agriculture, how do you convince the farmers to actually go ahead with your platform?
It's not difficult to convince them to come on once they know about us. So
Right.
a lot of it right now is just we're doing joint marketing with the Sustainable Rice platform so that the rice farmers know about us. I think the more difficult part of it is convincing farmers to adopt new techniques, which may involve an upfront investment without them being sure they're going to get a better price. All right.
Right.
Really important. They see buyers, offering better prices for organic rice, and the only way to really do that they believe is to have that in a marketplace like ours. So I think that's the market signals are going to be really important here in terms of convincing farmers to become organic, sustainable rice producers. I think the other part of it, which is not core to us, but you asked about the impact of technology, obviously is there are now technology tools to help farmers to improve their yields, to track what exactly how they're growing the rice or whatever crop it is they're growing. These are the tools which now exist. If you talk to the certification companies, they have access to satellite data. They can actually see. There are now ways to tell how a farmer is actually growing his rice, to measure the environmental impact, and eventually that will also be integrated into our platform. So we won't just say this rice is organic, but we'll tell the buyer, exactly where it came from. We give them a geoplot, show them, how it was grown. This stuff is, I'd say in our case, probably 18 months away, but we're already having the conversations, and we know where we're going with it.
Well, this is fascinating. It's using technology exactly where we need it. And I believe, what is the population of the world that is consuming rice at the moment?
I think 90% of the population consumes rice, at some point every year.
So it's a billion. I mean, people's impact. So it's definitely
exactly. I was going to say everyone eats it, but if you look on who produces it, we reckon over 1 billion people are either rice farmers or they depend on they're dependents of a rice farmer. So literally, there's 1 billion people in the world who, if you can give them a better income, all right, by increasing the income they get from rice growing, then they have an impact. There is no greater, I would say, venue for impacting, of having a global impact than finding a way to get a higher income to rice farmers. And so again, that's one of the key things our platform will do, is it will allow the consumers not just to know where the rice is coming from, but how much money actually went to the rice farmer. All right. And that's fascinating. We're already seeing with these cooperatives that we now have on the platform from Cambodia and Thailand and Vietnam, for instance, they're getting direct transparency on exactly how much money is being paid for the rice that they're selling.
Well, that is great. And which countries are the ones that are providing the supply mostly, the supply of rice?
In order: India, Thailand, Vietnam, Pakistan, Brazil, Paraguay, Argentina. That's the order. So basically,
mostly Latin America.
Latin America and Asia and Southeast Asia, South Asia are the big suppliers. Sorry, Cambodia. I forgot to mention Cambodia. So yeah, they're the two big areas. Sorry, and also USA. Don't forget the USA. USA is actually a big exporter of rice, especially to the Caribbean region.
Well, that's great. So in terms of how many supplier are right now playing on your platform, like what is the number? Do you have a number?
I said there are 75 users. Over half of them, I think it's 40 of those are suppliers.
So in terms of the method of payment, do you also accept cryptocurrency? How does that work?
Not at the moment, or at least we don't provide a payment mechanism. The payment is agreed between the buyer and the seller on the platform. In theory, they could agree payment in Bitcoin,
Right.
or any other cryptocurrency. That would just be part of the contract.
Right. And what are the other news? Has there been any partnership? What have been the latest updates with the Rice Exchange?
Yeah, I mean, there's this. We just announced a fantastic partnership yesterday with Intertek. Intertek is a global inspection company. They're the largest inspection company in rice. So over a third of all rice that is traded internationally is inspected by Intertek. So we're really excited about that partnership. We're going to do a bunch of joint marketing with them over the course of the next few weeks. We will be shortly announcing a partnership for trade finance, so making it easier for our users to get finance for their trade. And then we will also be launching a special insurance scheme for people that are on the platform. So yeah, we're going to be adding a lot of extra service offerings to those that are on the platform.
Cool. That's great. Perfect. It was great to have you. If you don't have any further updates, perhaps we can come back to you in the next 6 months and hear more about the Rice Exchange and how it's impacting more of lives.
One other thing maybe I could mention, which is we're just in the process of creating a holding company, which is going to allow us then to move into some additional verticals. So the technology platform is designed to be used not just for rice, but for other agricultural commodities. And we'll be announcing some of those new verticals soon. So yeah, as soon as I know more, I'll be able to tell you about it.
Oh, I can just easily take a guess right now. Probably would be cannabis or even other crops.
I get asked about cannabis quite a lot. We at the moment we're focusing on the traditional agricultural crops.
And the livestock.
Yeah, I don't want to announce it yet, but the service providers that we have involved, I mentioned the inspection companies, shipping lines like Maersk. They're interested in. They want to move with us into other verticals because basically we've already done a lot of work integrating with them, and they want to be able to leverage that, with additional business offerings.
Perfect. That's exciting. So definitely looking forward to that one.
Thank you, Azam. It's great to speak to you.